Kenia Monge was at a downtown Denver nightclub with her friends 1 week ago.
Last seen wearing a black skirt, black jacket, and red high-heel shoes.
I couldn't sleep. I'm praying. I get on my knees every day. God, please bring Kenia home.
When everything comes to light, it's going to be horrific, horrendous.
Kenia was born on January 26, 1992, in Honduras. As a young girl, she moved to the United States to live with her mother, Maria, and stepfather, Tony Lee, in Aurora, Colorado, just east of Denver. Although Kenia spoke little English when she first arrived, she was a fast learner and quickly adapted to her new home. She immediately bonded with her new family, especially her stepsister Kim, and began calling Tony Dad within weeks of moving in. She was very loving and caring. I felt like she was like my twin. We text each other every day, Kim recalled. Having spent her childhood in poverty-stricken Honduras, where opportunities were scarce, Kenia was determined to embrace all her new country had to offer. She excelled in her classes at Cherry Creek High School and went on to study broadcasting at a local college in Denver after graduating. By age 19, Kenia had already moved out of her family's home and was living in an apartment with her boyfriend. Kenia was known for her intelligence, kindness, and warm personality. She enjoyed relaxing at home with her close-knit family, but also had an active social life. One of her favorite pastimes was bar hopping, though she and her friends would use fake IDs to gain entry into clubs. On the night of March 31, 2011, Kenia made plans to go out with friends to Lavish, a downtown Denver club. Her friends arrived first and waited for her, but as hours passed, Kenia still hadn't shown up. Her friends texted her multiple times, but received no response. Eventually, they assumed Kenia had gone out with other friends, so they stopped trying to contact her. After the bar closed, they all went home, unaware of what happened to Kenia. As it turned out, Kenia was unable to get into Lavish because the bouncer didn't believe her fake ID. So instead, she ended up at a nearby bar called 24K, partying with two other ladies she barely knew. On the morning of April 1, 2011, Kenia's friend Janet tried calling her, but she remained unresponsive. It was out of character for Kenia to ignore her friend's messages, so at this point, Janet began to worry. She frantically reached out to their other friends to see if anyone had spent time with Kenia the night before, but no one had. He was like, "Are you with Kenia?" And I said, "No, I thought she was with you." And that's when it all started, a friend explained. To make matters worse, they found out Kenia didn't return home that morning. Her sister Kim received a call from Kenia's boyfriend, asking if she had seen her. At first, Kim thought he was joking, but she quickly realized he was serious and genuinely concerned about Kenia's whereabouts. Shortly after their conversation, Kim alerted her parents about the situation. Maria contacted many of the family's closest friends and relatives to see if anyone had seen her eldest daughter, but no one had. I started calling my sisters and the family, and I said maybe it's a joke. And my sister got very worried. She said, "I don't think it was a joke," Maria recalled. In desperation, Maria and Tony reached out to the local police to report their daughter missing. Unfortunately, because Kenia had only been gone for a few hours, the police were unable to start an investigation right away. And so, Tony decided to take matters into his own hands by conducting his own search. Speaking to her friends, he discovered that she hadn't shown up at their planned meeting place and had gone to a nearby bar with two other ladies instead. One of the women who had been with her at 24K eventually dropped by Tony and Maria's house to return Kenia's belongings. According to this individual, Kenia was drinking and having fun with them until about 1 a.m. on April 1st. At that point, Kenia left with a guy, leaving her cell phone and purse at the bar. By closing time, Kenia still hadn't returned, so her two companions took her belongings with them, assuming she'd already gone home. With Kenia's phone now in his possession, Tony meticulously combed through all the messages, hoping to uncover clues about his stepdaughter's whereabouts. However, every text Kenia received from the night of March 31st to the morning of April 1st was from her friends, all asking where she was. That changed when a mysterious message from an unknown number appeared on Kenia's phone around 7 p.m. on April 1st, 2011. The sender identified himself as Travis, the person who had given Kenia a ride the previous night. He even made a lighthearted reference to his creepy white van and inquired if Kenia had arrived home safely. Puzzled by the message, Tony spoke with Kenia's friends again and asked if they knew this individual, but none recognized the name. By this time, Tony began to harbor suspicions about this person. He repeatedly tried calling Travis to ask about Kenia, but the man didn't answer any of his calls until about 8 p.m. the following day, April 2nd, 2011. Travis then recounted how he saw Kenia outside a bar in the early hours of April 1st, 2011, visibly intoxicated. Concerned for her well-being, he offered to drive her home. Despite joking about his van's creepy appearance, Kenia accepted his offer. However, on their way to Kenia's apartment, she asked Travis to stop at a nearby Conoco gas station so she could buy cigarettes. While there, she encountered another man who offered to take her home. Travis noted that they seemed familiar with each other, so he left Kenia in his care. Shortly after their phone conversation, Tony couldn't shake the feeling that Travis's account didn't add up. And I got off the phone, and I thought to myself, that is the most fantastic story I've ever heard. Not one word of what he told me made any sense to me, Tony said. The next day, Tony arranged to meet Travis in person at the same gas station where he supposedly left Kenia. However, Maria feared that Travis might be dangerous, so she called 911 to alert them about the planned meeting. As a result, local police officers arrived at the gas station while Tony and Travis were talking. The officers intervened and began questioning Travis regarding Kenia's disappearance. Travis stuck to the same account he told Tony the night before. Without any evidence to contradict his story, the officers had no grounds to detain him and allowed him to leave. Over the next few days, Kenia's loved ones distributed flyers throughout the city in a desperate attempt to find her. Meanwhile, the Denver police, led by Detective Nash Gurul, began their investigation of the case. As Travis was the last known person seen with Kenia, the officers honed in on him. They discovered his full name was Travis Forbes, and interestingly, he had a previous record of theft and possession of illegal substances. By 2011, however, he appeared to have turned over a new leaf. Travis now owned a small business selling gluten-free granola bars and rented space at a local bakery to operate his business. Several days after the gas station meeting, the investigators visited the bakery and looked around. While they didn't find anything suspicious, they invited Travis to go with them to the police station for further questioning. Once again, Travis stuck to his story of leaving Kenia at a Conoco. She put her arm through his arm while they were sitting there smoking, and they spoke Spanish, and they walked off, and that's it. That was the last. That was it. And I went home, Travis recounted. When asked if that was the last he saw of her, Travis replied, yes. He remained composed throughout the interrogation and even expressed remorse for leaving Kenia behind. Detective Gurul and his team then redirected their attention to the mysterious man whom Kenia supposedly left with in the early hours of April 1st. However, their investigation didn't lead them to anyone. They then went back to Travis and this time secured a search warrant for his white van. Upon inspection, investigators immediately noticed a strong smell of bleach inside the vehicle, suggesting a recent thorough cleaning. However, they also found traces of dust and dirt underneath the van, indicating it was recently driven on a dirt road. To assist in their investigation, the detectives reviewed Travis's phone records in the hours following Kenia's disappearance. They found multiple calls he made from Keensburg, a rural area located approximately 40 miles northeast of Denver. After this discovery, several officers went there to ask if anyone had seen Travis's white van in the previous days. Meanwhile, the owner of the bakery where Travis operated his business made an intriguing find on the store's CCTV footage. Monica Poole was reviewing surveillance footage after noticing discrepancies in the cash register. She was surprised to observe Travis behaving oddly in several clips. In one video, he was seen wearing cleaning gloves that were never used in baking. Another showed him dragging a cooler into the freezer, which was unnecessary for his granola bars. A third clip caught him unplugging the CCTV. Monica immediately reported the videos to the police. After reviewing the CCTV footage, The officers also found a badly burned barrel that Travis used for disposing of something. At this point, Travis was not yet considered a suspect, but circumstantial evidence was starting to pile up against him. Perhaps feeling the pressure, he appeared on a local news broadcast to proclaim his innocence. Since you're a person of interest, let me ask you this. Did you do something with her? No. Did you kidnap her? No. Did you sexually assault her? I did not. Did you murder her? I did not. No. And having that on you, having that energy on you is very stressful. Man, I'm sorry that I was indifferent, that I didn't think anything. I didn't think she was gonna disappear. Around this time, the detectives also obtained CCTV footage from a hotel near the 24K bar. Around 2 a.m. on July 10, 2011, Fort Collins police spotted Travis heading towards a bar in Old Town. After the bar closed, Travis was seen talking to a woman for about half an hour before they walked together toward a dimly lit area. Concerned, the officers followed them for a few blocks and eventually stopped Travis for questioning. Despite initially giving a false name, Travis was later released. However, not long after, the police saw him following a visibly intoxicated woman as she walked alone. This time, the officers decided to apprehend Travis, citing the false identification he provided earlier as grounds for the arrest. However, they made sure not to tell him that he was already a suspect in Lydia's case. Detectives Gurul and Shackley were relieved to hear the news. At the very least, this allowed them to keep him in check while they awaited the result of the DNA analysis. The problem was that the analysis was taking longer than expected, and since Travis's offense was just a misdemeanor, he was granted bail. He was scheduled to leave prison on July 11, 2011, at 10:45 p.m. But, as fate would have it, just minutes before he was set to be released, the result of the DNA analysis finally came in. It was a match. The DNA found under Lydia's fingernails matched the one Travis provided after his arrest in Texas. With Travis now in custody for the attack on Lydia, Fort Collins detectives questioned him about Kenia's disappearance. But Travis refused to speak to them. He finally opened up when Detective Gurul visited him in prison. He agreed to confess about what happened to Kenia as long as they accepted his terms. He promised to disclose everything he'd done as long as he was not classified as an offender and the death penalty was off the table. After careful deliberation, the authorities accepted the deal. On September 7, 2011, Travis Forbes finally provided a full confession to his crimes. In the early hours of April 1, 2011, he offered the visibly inebriated Kenia a ride home in his white van. After Kenia passed out in his van, he took advantage of her in the back of the vehicle. However, Kenia eventually woke up and realized what he'd done, so she began hitting him and screaming. In a moment of panic, Travis ended up strangling her to death. Afterward, he drove around with Kenia's body in the back of his van for an entire day. He hid her remains inside a cooler, which he wheeled into a freezer at his bakery. He cut off Kenia's clothes and burned them. He then drove 40 miles to a field near Keensburg, Colorado, where he buried her in a shallow grave under a cottonwood tree. I killed her. I did not mean to kill her. I didn't pull over to kill her. I didn't pull over to her. None of that was in my head. None of that was premeditated. As for what he did to Lydia, Travis confessed to violating and strangling her. He also admitted to beating her head, shattering her jaw, and dousing her body and apartment in bleach before setting the place on fire. Following his confession, Travis led the police to the spot where he buried Kenia. Subsequently, the officers conveyed the devastating news to Kenia's family. Thank God we have answers. Not the answers we exactly want, but we do have answers now. I just don't feel like it's fair that people get to grow up with her sisters, but she was only there for a little bit of my life. Like she won't be able to see me grow up and get married or have kids, and I won't be able to see her grow up and get married and have kids. Like we just never get to have that bond. On September 26, 2011, Travis Forbes pleaded guilty to all charges against him. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for his crimes against Kenia Monge. Additionally, he received a 48-year sentence for his crimes against Lydia Tillman. In a touching moment during the sentencing, Kenia's mother, Maria, gave Lydia her daughter's favorite ring, symbolizing the bond forged through their shared tragic experience. Lydia then stood alongside her father in court. Since she was still unable to speak, her father read aloud her statement. In poignant words that brought tears to the entire courtroom, Lydia wrote about her decision to forgive Travis rather than harbor anger. To forgive him was super difficult. These two young women, who were strangers in life, are now forever connected by the monstrous acts of a cold-blooded killer. But they're also bonded by the incredible love and support of the communities that rallied around them. Kenia Monge will never be forgotten by those who knew and loved her. She is remembered as a smart, ambitious, caring young woman who brought joy to all around her. Hundreds attended her memorial service in October 2011 to celebrate her life. Today, Kenia's family keeps her memory alive through the Kenia Monge Foundation, which provides resources and support to families with missing loved ones.